Hey guys, welcome back to 9180. We have finally closed on the Little House of Horrors. The reason why I say finally is because what was initially intended to be a 30-day closing has turned into a 40-day closing. There is a reason for that, and I'll go into that in a minute. Our original scheduled closing date was for April 15th. Which is hilarious because I work in an accounting firm and that's tax day. My coworkers and I rarely even take a lunch that day, let alone skip out for a few hours to go sign closing documents. So right off the bat, Randy and I knew we were going to need to request an extension for at least one day. I don't think either of us thought one day was going to turn into 10 days, but that's just how it works. So, you might be wondering what determines the closing date. In a typical situation, when you're dealing with a traditional loan and both parties are wanting to move fairly quickly, the deadline will usually be 30 days from the date that you officially went under contract. Our closing date was scheduled for April 15th, which means that we officially went under contract March 15th. For those who don't know, March 15th is also a major tax deadline. And I very clearly remember in the days leading up to one of the largest tax deadlines of the year that I was running around the office like a chicken with my head cut off. In between juggling tax returns and trying to keep up with filing, I was filling out a loan application and scanning in numerous documents to the lender to get our pre-approval letter and running across the street to get proof of our earnest money. Both things are needed in order to submit your offer. And then we were submitting the offer, and then we were waiting anxiously to hear back from the sellers. And it was finally on March 15th, on the tax deadline, that the sellers accepted our offer and we officially went under contract. Now, normally I would not put myself through something like that during one of my busiest weeks of my year. And I'm not going to say that I believe in fate, because I believe you make your own fate. But it did kind of feel like the house was meant to be. I'll tell you a little story. So one night Randy turns to me and he says, "Hey, let's flip a house." And I say, "Okay," because I'd been trying to get Randy to flip a house for like a decade, and I was not going to pass up this opportunity. So the very next day, we hit the pavement and we're looking at houses. We looked at one house on the far side of Broken Arrow. It was a really good contender, but it was just so far away. And there was another house in Midtown Tulsa that was priced really well for the area. And it turned out to be too good to be true. It was a short sale, which means the sellers have listed it for less than what they owe to the bank. So even though they might accept your offer, it doesn't necessarily mean that their bank's going to approve the transaction. So we didn't want to risk wasting a bunch of our time, so we walked away from that one. And we came home and we were a little disappointed, and I got online and I got on Zillow, and I have to tell you, I don't always trust Zillow. I've been burned by Zillow before. Sometimes on their map, they will pin a house in a really great part of town, and then when you Google it, you see that the house is actually in this really sketchy part of town. So I always verify Zillow's information in some other way. But I get online and I can't believe what I'm seeing. There's this house, according to the Zillow map, and then I verified it on Google, that is located just 2 blocks west of where we're currently living, literally within walking distance of us. And the price is so unbelievably low, I can't even believe it. And so I immediately contact my realtor, Sherry McLean. Sherry has been our realtor for 10 years and has been my friend for way longer than that. And I trust anything that comes out of her mouth. And she verifies all the information, says yes, it is where it says it is, yes, it is priced at what it says it is. And she confirms my suspicions that this is a very rare opportunity for the area. And she has me put her on speakerphone so that Randy can hear her. And she says, listen guys, if you're serious about doing this, you need to move quickly. If you don't move fast, a career investor is going to come in and swoop up the house and you're going to miss out on this awesome opportunity. So we listened to her and we did move fast. From the day that Randy said he wanted to flip a house to the day we were officially under contract was it within less than 1 week's time. And so it does really kind of feel like it was meant to be. But anyway, like I said, with a traditional loan, it's a lot easier to get done in a 30-day time span. But Randy and I did not opt for a traditional loan. We decided on a rehab loan. A rehab loan is where the renovation budget is built into the mortgage. So your total loan amount is not the purchase price, it's the purchase price plus the renovation budget. And we wanted to keep the renovation budget fairly low because we wanted the total loan amount to be fairly low. We wanted to pay less in closing costs and pay less in the down payment. And also because the bank requires that any projects that are funded with the rehab loan must be done through a licensed contractor. That means we have a lot less control over how the money is spent. We can't save money by doing some of the projects ourselves or by hiring my Uncle Alan, who's a handyman. And so we really didn't want to give up all of that freedom. So we decided to only build in the most essential things that we knew needed to be done by professionals anyway, and the rest we were going to fund with a personal loan. That way we could spend the money how we wanted to. And so we had the general contractor submit the bid and the lenders got started on our paperwork. And had we left it that way, we probably would have closed within 30 days and we'd probably be 10 days into the renovation right now. But we changed our minds. After some thought and after reevaluating what it was we wanted, we decided to go ahead and have the vast majority of the renovation rolled into the loan. We did this, one, because we just wanted to streamline things, have the funds coming from one location and not be paying multiple payments on multiple loans. And also because even though, yes, we're paying a higher down payment, yes, we're paying higher closing costs, yes, we're losing some control over the money, time is money. And the quicker we get the renovation done, the quicker we can get it on the market. And the best way to do that is to have the professionals do the majority of the work. Yes, we could have saved some money by doing stuff ourselves, but we might not have gotten the house on the market until the fall. And we really don't want to miss out on the summer real estate market. So both strategies are really smart, and it just depends on what it is that you want. And we changed our minds on what we wanted. So we went back to the bank and we had the general contractor submit the new numbers, and they pretty much had to get started from scratch on the paperwork because they're now dealing with a completely different total loan amount as before. And so that's why we went from a 30-day close to a 40-day close. And so instead of closing on April 15th, we closed today on April 25th. The wild thing about that is that April 25th, 2017 was the closing date when we sold our first home 2 years ago. And that means that as of today, we have officially been members of the tiny house community for 2 years. It was 2 years ago that we moved into our tiny house. And speaking of our tiny home, I'm sitting in it right now. Just to my right, I have our little foyer area, and this is our dining area, and just in front of me I have both our office and our living room, and to the right of me I have our kitchen, and a few steps up is our bathroom and our bedroom. And I love tiny house living, but it's really starting to wear on my husband. He is definitely ready to build our home. And, I'm excited for that new chapter as well, mainly because we can start a family and start the business we've been talking about for years. But I still just really believe in the values and the ideals of the tiny house movement. I'm not a materialistic person. I don't believe a person's value should be based on their worldly possessions. And 2 years ago, when we purged ourselves of all the unnecessary clutter in our lives, it was so liberating and it felt so good and free that I've told Randy, even after we build our house, and our house is not going to be tiny because we're going to be running our business out of it, and it's a business that requires space. But I told him, I will continue to be a minimalist. I will not fill my life with clutter again. And he luckily agrees with me that we will have the items necessary for our business and the items necessary for our life, and that is it. And I have no idea how I got on this subject because we were talking about closing dates. I think that's pretty much all I have for this video, but until next time, I encourage you to purge yourself of some clutter. Maybe you have a closet or a spare bedroom that tends to collect things, or maybe you pay a monthly fee for a storage unit that's filled with items that you haven't even seen in 1 or 2 years. I promise you, if you haven't seen something in 1 or 2 years, you probably don't need it, and you're gonna feel so much better when you get rid of it, especially if you donate it to someone who really needs it. It's just such a great feeling, and I hope that eventually everyone can learn how to be minimalist. I just think that's how life should be. But anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time, have a blessed day. Bye.